So I will get started. Thank you, everybody. As Andrew said, we really appreciate you guys taking time out of your Friday afternoon to join us. Hopefully, some of you were at our last presentation in White Plains last week. Again, we're really excited about this turnout and to speak about both of these developments. My name is Jim Wendling, COO of WBP Development. I'm joined by Andrew Smith and Dana from Westchester Residential Opportunities, Chance Mullen and Mina from Housing Action Council, and then from our firm, WBP Development, Tina Brodsky, Deborah Post, and Chris Hahn. Before we start, I just wanted to ask that if anyone has any questions, to use the Zoom function. We will save the last probably 20 minutes to answer all questions, but certain questions may be answered quickly by our staff as we run through this presentation. Briefly about our company, because I think it's important to understand what we have done. We are a Westchester-based, fully integrated company, which means we develop, we build, and we manage all of the properties that we work on. On the screen before you are a few recent developments that we've done. We do everything from affordable housing to mixed income to market rate, manage everything we build, low rise, mid rise, and high rise. Tina, if you want to go to the next slide. I think there's one before that, or one, maybe not.
This is the next one in the queue.
Okay, then go to the next one.
Yep.
Next one. Yeah. So go back once, just so it shows the White Plains. So the first thing I'll say, and if you guys were at the meeting last week, you heard me say this, we're speaking about two condominium developments tonight or today. And the only reason why we're speaking about both at the same time is because they are adjacent to each other and because they're on roughly the same construction schedule. But for those two factors, we would be having a presentation for 99 Church Condominium and 6 Cottage Condominium completely separate. But again, they are adjacent to each other. They're located next to each other and they're on the same schedule. But if you are interested in home ownership opportunity in White Plains, we really encourage you to apply to both. It's two separate applications. If you apply to one, you're not automatically applying to the other one. And they are different. Even though they're next to each other, there are differences. We're very excited about both of them, but they are different. So one of the reasons why our whole team is really excited about these two developments is the location. That's what drew our development staff to it. Downtown White Plains, close to transit, close to businesses, close to shopping, close to work, close to parks in central part of Westchester County, in a really beautiful and vibrant and diverse city. Hopefully, as you guys consider potentially moving here and have the opportunity to move here, you drive by, you walk around, you get a feel for the neighborhood. It is, again, something that excites our team, and also the adaptive reuse component of these developments. We're taking existing buildings and converting them to housing, which is becoming very popular, very necessary to help solve housing shortages in this area and regionally and nationally. So these are really interesting and cool developments. Church, the rendering you see right now is one of the Church building. So I'll speak of that first. 99 Church, 68 condominium homes, a mix of 24 one bedrooms, 36 two bedrooms, and 8 3 bedrooms. The rendering you see on the screen is an exterior courtyard on the second floor that we're creating for outdoor passive space to go out, read a book, take a phone call, do some work from home. Really interesting layouts in these units because, again, we're taking the existing building and creating condominium homes. So all unique layouts as opposed to typical new construction. There's a lot of interesting configurations. The homes are priced roughly between $320,000 and $370,000. Amenities include co-working space, fitness room, a lounge area, really interesting and well-designed amenity space that you would typically see in new construction buildings. We also have additional storage space, which is a space that can be purchased in the basement for winter clothes, for bicycles, summer clothes, whatever that might be. But that's something that often people in condominium homes and multifamily buildings find necessary. So we're pleased to offer that. One parking space per home in 99 Church, so 68 units. You will get one parking space, so 68 to 68 is the ratio. This building will be completed in September, October of this coming year. So while it sounds maybe far away as we talk on this Zoom in December, it really is coming very quickly. And as Andrew and Chance go through the finer points and details of the lottery process and what you have to do to qualify and to go through the process and to secure a loan, I think everybody will realize that even though the building is September, October, it really is, there is a sense of urgency of kind of putting this all together now. 6 Cottages located directly adjacent to, we're now on Cottage Street looking at, or Cottage Place looking at Cottage. Church is directly behind Cottage. So this building will be completed in August, so about 2 months before the church building. It's a mix of 10 studios, where we don't have studios at church. We do have studios here, 25 one-bedrooms, and 5 3-bedrooms. The amenity package is similar, except in church, the amenities are on each floor. In Cottage, all the amenities are on the ground floor, so a central location, which makes for an interesting and really cool space. Each of the areas on the first floor will be programmed differently. Same uses: co-working, lounge, children's room, and fitness room. The homes are priced between roughly 232,000 and 300. Again, very interesting, well-designed layouts. We've spent a lot of time working with our architect and professionals to come up with really great use of the space. What you see now, we're going back and forth a little bit, but these are church renderings of our amenity space. And Tina, why don't you just click ahead to the Cottage? And everything you see here, by the way, is on our websites. We did these floor plans to help people show with furniture how they lay out. Really well designed. Cottage has 15 parking spaces for the 40 apartments. So all of the 3-bedrooms will get 1 parking space, and 10 of the 1-bedrooms will get 1 parking space. The balance of the parking, if needed, if required, you would rely on municipal parking, which we've done in other downtown areas and which is quite common. And then the last slide that I'll speak about before I turn it over to Andrew is the benefits of home ownership. Tina, I think that slide follows these floor plans. Here it is. What we did here for our team, and then for you guys to look at as well, is we canvassed the market and looked at the downtown White Plains market, new construction, relatively new construction, to see what renters are paying. And then compared it to what the home ownership price is for the studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s. So taking away the benefit of home ownership, the benefits that are stability, long-term benefits, including, mortgages, if you get a 30-year fixed, don't increase on a monthly or annual basis where rents do. So that there's certain home ownership benefits that are obvious. But what we noticed right away is it's really shows the discount to market and what a great deal these are for home ownership in downtown White Plains compared to the price to rent a very similar unit. So we're excited to take questions. We're excited really to bring these opportunities online and looking forward to the next couple months. But there's a lot of particulars to go through. So Andrew's going to start, then Chance, and then again, we will answer questions. So Andrew?
Thank you so much, Jim. Let me just get the view here. All right. So it's Andrew Smith. I'm with Westchester Residential Opportunities, and Jim introduced us earlier on. We are doing the marketing. We're taking the applications, running the lottery. We'll talk more about those processes as we go through. But the first question that, wanted to address, and we get it from folks all the time, is, okay, this is affordable housing. What does that mean? Who is it affordable to? And again, that's a question that you should be thinking about whenever you're presented with affordable housing. Affordable housing is priced at lots of different levels. It's targeted to different income levels, and you have to focus on the details. So in this case, these units are priced to be at 80% of the area median income, or MI, you might hear people refer it to as. And that is a statistical kind of average of what people earn in Westchester County. So it's pretty high, right? In this case, we're priced at 80% of the area median income, but to qualify, you need to be at or below 100% of the area median income. That's the maximum income that you can have. That level of income is going to change based on the size of your household. So for example, today, for a household of 4, that limit is $170,000. So it's high. These are not low income housing developments. The other thing I would note about that is that MI changes every year, usually in April. So the numbers that you're going to see on the brochures and ads for this project, those numbers are going to go up in April. They always go up seemingly, which means that if you're on the cusp on the edge, you make 175,000 for a family of four and you're not sure whether or not to apply, go ahead and apply. Because by the time the lottery is run and you get called up to go through your income, those numbers will have changed. And again, they'll probably go up. Tina, thank you. So as Jim mentioned, the units are priced, each unit might have a slightly different price based on various factors. For 99 Church, there's 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. You can see the price ranges here. Those are estimates, so they could change slightly. Again, the pricing and the overall monthly payments that you're estimated to make are targeted to that 80% of area median income. You can see the maximum income limits at 100% MI at the bottom of the screen. And again, they vary based on the size of your household. Household size or occupancy limit is key as well. When you're thinking about which size units to apply for, you have to know who you intend to have living in your household. You can see those occupancy limit or household size on the right-hand column. One thing I want to note for folks towards the bottom of the screen, and this has changed over the last week, is asset limitations. So the government programs that fund these developments or that subsidize these developments have asset limitations in them. And you'll see 100 asset limitation in some of the documentation that's floating around. Those numbers are going to go up. So you can see the asset limit for 6 Cottage is 160,000 to 180,000, and for 99 Church, it's higher than that, up to 190,000. Those numbers are calculated based on the government subsidies, so it's a little complicated. There's math involved, but basically, what you need to know is if you saw that $100,000 limit and that was an issue for you, good news that those numbers are going to go up. And we'll update the materials that are publicly facing, as soon as we can to reflect that. Okay, Tina, thank you. Okay, one other thing that we wanted to note for folks is this is affordable housing, and that means that it is restricted for a period of time, 50 years in the case of 6 Cottage, 60 years for 99 Church. And those restrictions mean that the government wants to ensure that whenever you go to resell your unit down the road, you decide you want to move, you got a new job, whatever the circumstance is, they want to know that that resale price is going to be affordable, again, to someone, below that 100% of MI threshold. So you are restricted in who you can sell to. It has to be to folks who meet the occupancy standards and the same income qualification standards. Again, those numbers will adjust over time, but whatever the standards are at that time, same restriction. It has to be owner occupied. It can't be rented. And that resale price is going to be fixed. The maximum price that you can charge is going to be limited by the government to sort of the price that you pay today, plus some sort of yearly increase that's basically tied to inflation. Also note another just complication to be aware of, and this only applies to 99 Church, is that there is a $30,000 subsidy that the government is putting on each unit. And the way that subsidy works is, on its face, if you sell the unit within 10 years from your initial closing date, then some portion of that 30,000 is intended to be repaid when you sell it. That's something to be aware of. The reality is that as long as that buyer meets the government's criteria, which again are basically going to be the same income qualification standards and asset limit standards, if that's the case, that new buyer will be able to assume the subsidy, which means it doesn't actually have to be repaid. And in reality, this subsidy has been around in lots of other projects for many years, and it's almost never actually repaid. So that's good news, but something to be aware of. Okay, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Chance.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi, everyone. My name is Chance Mullen. I'm the Executive Director at Housing Action Council. And as Jim mentioned, I am joined by my colleagues and friends, Mina Baylog and Silvana Carrion. So this process can be very daunting for folks. My wife and I were lucky to buy a home about 6 years ago. And if I'm being totally honest, we had no idea what we were doing. It was a very daunting, difficult process. But fortunately, we had folks around us at that time who did know what we should be doing. And that's what made it easier. Housing Action Council has been playing that role for folks looking for affordable housing opportunities for about 50 years. And that's how you'll come to know us. So as you go through this process, you're going to end up needing to get a mortgage, and we can connect you to lenders who specialize in mortgages for affordable homes. You're going to need an attorney. We have names we can give you. You're going to need approval from the county and the state. We will usher you through that approval process and get those approvals for you. You may need help with your budget. We can provide counseling on that. As you'll see, there's also a preference with this project related to IDA. So if you were impacted by IDA, we can connect you with the firm that will verify that and potentially give you some financial support for down payment assistance, closing costs, even moving expenses. So think of it as an ecosystem of people, and we're at the middle of it. And as daunting as it feels, we are not daunted by it. So I'm going to speak to just a couple of things to be thinking about now as you're headed into the application process. Step back to that last slide. So these are the first two questions you have to answer. The first is, who is in my household? What is my household composition? This is an important question to ask, and it's a simple answer. Who's going to be living there? And that's your kids, your mother-in-law, your spouse. This answer, how you answer this question is going to determine which units you're actually eligible for. So if you have a 4-person household, you can't buy a studio. If you have a 1-person household, you can't buy a 3-bedroom. So you'll have to determine that first. And then the second question, what's my income? The way to think of it is, what's all the money that's coming in? So wages, pensions, government benefits, child support, alimony, everything from everyone in the household. Now, then comes another set of questions, another sort of assessment that will happen in the process. And again, this is all after the lottery. So you qualify, you meet the eligibility criteria, then we'll have to assess whether you can afford it. You're going to have a mortgage, you'll pay taxes, condo fees, insurance, and all of those fees, plus your other debts. So credit cards, car loans, what have you, all of those things need to be less than 45% of your gross household income. That's a standard that will determine whether or not you're allowed to purchase these. You're also going to need some cash on hand for down payment and closing costs. But as Andrew mentioned, there's a catch. You can't have too much money in your bank account. So if you've got a savings account with $1 million in it, you should go and find a different home because they won't approve you for this. And then the final thing that I will just say on this slide, the banks that you go to get your mortgage, they're going to do their own assessment. So we're really looking at making sure you can get approved to purchase, but then you're also going to have to get approved for a mortgage. And you can step to the next slide. So what's the best thing to do right now? Right now, you want to get ready. Don't take on any big purchases that are going to affect your credit report. Don't close any cards. Certainly, if you have credit cards and you want to pay them down, go for it. Don't close them. That can actually hurt you in the process. And if you need help, the best thing to do is go out and get some homeownership counseling. WRO offers that counseling. There are lots of organizations that do. Housing Action Council will also be offering that in the new year. And final slide. And so just to kind of put this in like really actionable steps, right now, you can go to the Westchester County's website, start thinking about what are you eligible for. Different properties, if you go to homeseekerwestchestergov.com, you'll see that there are lots of different properties out there with different MI limits. What are you eligible for? You can register on the HomeSeeker platform so that you can apply to all sorts of things, including these projects. You'll want to go ahead and participate in homeownership counseling prior to closing and actually purchasing the home. You'll have to get some education. It's very simple stuff, but it's also very helpful. And then go in and apply. See the stuff that's out there. One thing to just note here, when you apply for these, you're going to have an option to check whether or not you want a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. Check anything that you would be interested in that you're eligible for, because it may get to the end and we're only trying to fill the final 2 bedroom units, and we'll be looking at who checked the box for those 2 bedroom units. So if you're interested, go ahead and do it. Then after the lottery, you'll verify your eligibility. My request is respond quickly. You'll get an email. Use a good email that we can reach out to. Respond quickly. You'll gather a bunch of documentation. It's things like tax returns and pay stubs and bank statements. And we'll connect you to the appropriate lenders who can help you secure financing. And then finally, you move in. And that moment that you are trying to get to, that's the moment we're trying to get you to as well. So I look forward to meeting you all soon. And back to you, Andrew.
All right. Thank you so much, Chance. That was great. And one thing Chance said, but I just want to reiterate, is that we're here to help. Westchester Residential Opportunities, that's Dana and I, and Housing Action Council, that's Chance, Mina, and Silvana. We are housing counseling agencies. We're here to help you through this process. If you have questions, we'll put up our contact information at the end of the presentation. But if you have questions about how to apply, you can reach out to WRO. We're the right folks to talk to about how to apply, questions about how to fill out something in the application. And if you have questions about the process, how to get a mortgage, learning about being a homeowner, again, you can reach out. Housing Action Council will be handling that for most folks. You can reach out to either them or WRO. Okay, so you see on this slide, there's a really special thing about these two projects is they both have preferences. Preferences mean that while the lottery order will determine, who gets called up first, this is sort of an exception to that, where 25% of the units will first look at people who satisfy this Hurricane Ida preference. So that is households whose housing was adversely affected by Hurricane Ida. That's back in September of 2021, if you all recall. You'll need to document that. But as Chance mentioned, we're connected with folks who can validate that for us pretty quickly. The other preference is 25% of the units at each of these buildings will have a preference for households with a member who's either a full-time employee of Westchester County or of the city of White Plains, or folks who are currently in affordable or subsidized housing in White Plains or are on a wait list for subsidized or affordable housing as of September 30th of this year. So very important if you fall into either or both of these categories to make sure you check those boxes on the application and indicate it, because it means that while that lottery order is going to control if you are in one of these categories, you might get pulled up effectively in that lottery list until those 25% of units are filled. Okay, the last thing to note here is that each of these condos has units that have been specially adapted to be accessible to folks who have either mobility or hearing vision disabilities. So priority for those specific units will go to the households that need them. So there are questions in the application, again, about if you have someone in the household who has a mobility impairment or a sensory impairment, pay close attention to those. If you need those features of a home, please make sure you state that in the application so that Chance and Mina and Silvana know as they're going through your application. Okay, Tina. Okay, process. So I know we've gotten a couple questions in the Q&A about process, very important stuff. As Jim mentioned at the get-go, these are two separate projects. There are two separate applications. You should apply for both. And there are two lotteries that are going to be run. So again, as long as you're interested and they've got the right unit sizes and all that for you, please remember to apply for both. Applying for one doesn't mean you applied for the other. You got to apply for both. Applications are being received on Westchester County's new Home Seeker website. You can see the website up here, homeseeker.westchestergov.com. You can just search for Home Seeker Westchester County. It'll pop right up. Super easy to apply, even easier to apply twice for two different opportunities once you set up your profile there. That's the idea behind it. To be in the lottery, you have to have applied by the deadline, and you want to be in the lottery, obviously. So please note these deadlines. You have plenty of time for both to apply. February 12th at 4 p.m. for 6 Cottage, March 2nd at 4 p.m. for 99 Church. So make sure you get your applications in by then. If you apply after those deadlines, your application will be received, but it will go onto the wait list, and it will be in the wait list in kind of order it's received and only considered after everyone who's on the lottery list. So again, please make sure you hit these deadlines. You got plenty of time. The lotteries will be held on March 3rd for 6 Cottage and March 17th for 99 Church. The lotteries will be conducted electronically through Home Seeker. You'll basically get an email that tells you what your lottery number is, or you can log into your account. You can see your lottery number in your dashboard that tells you what you've applied for, the status of everything you've applied for. Okay. After the lottery, as Chance mentioned, Housing Action Council is going to review applications in the lottery/preference order. And what that means is they're going to call you up and ask for a lot of documentation to support the income and the assets, the household size that you have stated in your application. Please respond quickly. Housing Action Council's job is to get the homes sold as soon as possible, so they will not wait around for you. Communicate if you need another day or something, make sure you communicate that to them promptly, and just be super responsive, because that's the key. They need to know that you're engaged or they're going to move on. That's their job. If you are selected to move forward, as Chance mentioned, you're going to need to complete an education program, which is a great education program for anyone who's interested in home buying generally, but it's required for most affordable homes. It's called a first-time homebuyer education class, and it's offered by a bunch of folks in Westchester. You can use any of them. Housing Action Council will be offering it. Westchester Residential Opportunities, my shop, offers it, as well as a firm called Community Housing Innovations, or CHI. You can take it with any one of those shops. You can start it now. You can start doing it now. For a lot of people, home ownership, getting ready for home ownership is a process. You might need to work on your credit score. You might need to work on your savings. All those things can be identified by taking this class. And you learn a lot about what it means to be a homeowner, what your responsibilities are as a homeowner, what kind of things you're going to have to pay for month by month. Okay, you're also going to need to secure a mortgage to be able to buy. So like Chance said, you're going to need to work with a lender to come up with a mortgage and get approved for a mortgage that works with affordable housing. And the good news is Housing Action Council is here to help. That's part of their job. So you're going to talk to them. They're going to recommend banks if you need a recommendation. They're going to tell you what kind of loan products work and what don't. If there are grants or other assistance available based on your circumstance, they're going to help you identify those. Or a bank might offer some sort of grant to help with closing costs or down payment assistance. First move-ins for 6 Cottage, summer. It sounds like probably August of 26. For 99 Church, fall of 2026. So September, October. So if you're looking at this as I'm going to move in April, nobody's moving in April, all right? It's a process. It's going to take a while to get this done, and obviously can't move in until the building's completed. Okay, Tina? Okay. Again, you should, if you have access to a computer, apply electronically. You'll register for Home Seeker if you haven't already. You create a profile, and that allows you to very easily apply for one or both or other opportunities that are on Home Seeker. And if you don't have access to a computer, or you just refuse for whatever reason to do an online application, you don't have to. You can fill it out by hand and either mail or hand deliver it to WRO, Westchester Residential Opportunities. The address is here. If you need a paper application, we'll get to it in a second, but the easiest thing to do is to contact WRO. You can print it off of HomeSeeker, but probably the easiest thing to do is to ask us to help you out with that, which we're happy to do. Okay, Tina. Again, strongly recommend applying online if you're capable. Okay, so contact information, WRO. If you have issues around the applications, want to understand more about what kind of information to fill out, we're the folks to talk to about that. You can hit us up at 914-428-4519 or at our email address, affordable@wroinc.org. And we're happy to help you out. You can email us questions. We'll try and be responsive. Housing Action Council they are going to be, Chance and his team will be available as well. They can help you with questions on any of this stuff as well, but they're principally responsible for what happens after the lottery in terms of getting you guys approved to buy, helping you find a lender, making sure you've got that home buying education, and getting you to a closing, which is where we all want to be. Okay, with that,
I have the first question, Andrew.
let's do it.
And then what I'll do, Deborah, if it's okay with you, can you just quarterback the questions coming in and just assign them to people to answer?
Sure. Yeah, I've been answering questions as we go along to
Yeah, no,
the
I saw that. Thank
best
you.
of my ability, but there
Yeah.
are some questions I think that Silvana and Mina.
Okay, my first question though, Andrew, is this presentation that we just walked through during this Zoom, is it available on any of the websites?
Yeah, so and then we had a question about that. It's a good question. So we are recording this presentation, and our intention is to make it available on affordablewestchester.org. That's Westchester Residential Opportunities website. So we're going to try to add some Spanish language captioning as well. So hopefully that'll be up and running at some point next week, and folks can watch it again if they missed anything or just want to go through it again.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so going from the top, Chance, do you want to, it says we'll go from the top, traditionally condo scopes request 20% down. That's not the case here. I don't know if you want to respond to that or if Andrew wants to respond.
Yeah, and there are some programs where you could even put 5% down. In fact, the Sony May loans, mortgages that we're trying to line up for folks typically have a 5% down. So it's gonna be dependent on each individual bank and each applicant, but folks should not assume 20% down.
And the condo itself does not have a requirement, as Jim said,
Correct.
which is key.
Yeah.
That's different
Right,
from,
yeah.
a co-op or a condo out there.
Right. Frankly, we expect most of the buyers will put between 5 and 10% down based on the programs available. That's our expectation.
Right.
But again, as Chan said, it'll be studied and reviewed on an individual basis during your work with Housing Action Council.
That's right.
Andrew, do you want to take the next one about my family already owning a condo in Westchester County?
Yeah, so this is a great question. Will we still be eligible if we currently own a condo, but we plan to sell it? No. So one of the criteria here is you can't own any other real property. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, you probably can't afford to own two things at once. It also means you have an asset that's worth a lot of money, presumably. But there is a specific requirement in the guidelines for approval that you are not permitted to own another piece of real estate.
Thank you. The housing choice voucher. So there's a question on the application. So Andrew?
Yeah, that's a great question. So housing choice voucher, or what commonly referred to as a Section 8 voucher, there's a question on the application about whether you have a voucher or not. And the reason for that is that if you do have a housing voucher and you have been approved for the Section 8 home ownership program, then you could conceivably use that Section 8 voucher to pay your mortgage. And it's a fantastic program that we've had folks at WRO who've bought homes using that program. So that's really to let, Chance and his team know that that's a possibility and that they shouldn't deny you because your income might be lower than what they think you need. So thank you. That's a great question.
The next question is the resale price. As Andrew said during the presentation, it's tied to consumer price index, or you would be selling to a household that is eligible at the time of sale. So if you purchased in 2026 and you sold in 2036, let's say 10 years later, the AMIs will have increased over that 10-year period. by anywhere from 1 to 10% probably per year, and you would sell to an income qualified person at that time. It doesn't account for closing costs for both buyer and seller. I'm not sure I understand that completely, but essentially if you bought for 350 and you were qualified at this moment of time and you sold 10 years later to a person, they would be qualified, same household, 350 plus whatever inflation over that 10 years. And that's what, in essence, that's what the sale price would be. There's a little more nuance to that, but that's essentially what the sale price would be. And I'll just quickly answer, is there a minimum income limit? That's a very good question too. That's really a case by case basis of, can you afford it? The sale prices are set to those making up to 80% AMI. The affordability analysis is at 80% AMI. The household income, as Andrew and Chance both explained, goes up to 100% AMI. And the purpose of that, it's a state policy, not our policy, is to allow more people the opportunity to purchase here. But if you're making 72% of AMI or 74 or 60, other factors contribute to that. What other debt do you have? What other cost and burden do you have on a monthly basis? So there is no minimum other than, can you afford it, based on Housing Action Council's analysis and then a bank's analysis, and can you obtain a loan? Would the entire household who will reside in the home be required to be present at meetings for the application closing process? I think the answer is no, but I'll ask Chance to answer that.
Yeah, no, there will be affidavits that you'll need to sign to confirm and verify your household composition, but it's not a situation where they would have to be present at the final signing of documents.
Thank you, Chance. When will individuals be selected after the lottery ends? So we will have a lottery. As Andrew said, very quickly thereafter, you will be notified. Andrew, is it an accurate statement that everybody will be notified with their lottery number?
Yeah, that's the intention. So everyone,
Right.
if you have a good email address on that home seeker system, you're going to get it probably within like an hour after the lottery's completed. If your email fails or you didn't, you submitted a paper application, you didn't include an email, whatever, we'll send you a letter. So you'll get a letter hopefully within, a couple business days after.
Right. And then soon after getting a letter, if you are number one, Chance's team is going to reach out to you very quickly. Probably reach out to the
Right.
first 15 people, very, very quickly. They will not wait around. Obviously, if you have a circumstance, if you're traveling, if you need a day or two, please communicate that to Chance and his team, as Andrew said during the presentation. But this is not like you can wait 45 days to respond. We will move on
Right.
to the next person because there is a strong, strong demand for these homes.
And Jim, let me add some color to
Yeah,
that.
please.
So, when that moment happens, when we suddenly have a list of folks who are all in that priority order, it will probably be about 100 people that we reach out to right away. Because what we've found is, sometimes you find one person who qualifies for every 6, 7, 8 people on that list. So definitely respond right away and just know that there will be a little bit of a process, and there's just going to be touch points that we're going to have all the way through that process. But we want to get as many people qualified so that before these things even open, everything is sold and everybody can move in right away.
Thanks, Chance.
Yep.
Are the asset limits based on the type of apartment studios versus one bedrooms? Another good question. Yes, they're based on the sale price, and the sale prices are based on the unit type. So the asset range, there is an asset range, which is again in all this printed material, and you can see on the websites, but there is an asset range between the studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s. Andrew, you want to take the next one about the adult child?
Yeah. So the question is, if I have an adult child who may or may not move with me at the time of completion, do I include them in the income and assets? Excuse me. So it's a good question. You, like Chance said, you have to decide who's in your household. I would err on the side of including them. And if when Chance calls you up, you say, oh no, my adult child has moved on, gotten their own place, then you can take them off the application. That's going to be a lot easier than saying, oh, I want to add someone in. So that would be my advice. But better yet is to kind of decide up front who's going to be in your household, because that's going to affect which apartments your occupancy size allows you to be in. And obviously, it's going to impact on your income that you state and assets.
And when we reach out, that is the moment where I would recommend really making that decision in that moment. If you can decide now, that's great. But what you don't want to do is go through the whole process with one household composition and then right before closing, decide to change. That's where it gets difficult.
Next question from Carol. Are there any plans for tiny home developments to be constructed in Westchester? The homes are less expensive than condos. I don't know. I could just tell you that my firm, our firm, is not working on any tiny home developments. I'm not aware of any others, but we are not. The next question I think is very important. It's about if I do not live in the county or in New York State, and perhaps we didn't make this clear enough during the presentation. This lottery is open to everyone, whether you live in Tennessee or you live in Long Island. But for the preference units, those are preference units, there is an equal opportunity for everybody to have an opportunity to purchase here. So you do not need to live in Westchester County nor New York State. If you lived in Texas and you were the first person pulled in the lottery, you will have the first opportunity to live here. So it's probably something we should have made more clear. Obviously, we're in Westchester County. We're doing this marketing across a broad area. We're broadly advertising across 9 counties. We don't do ads in other states, but everybody, if you have relatives or family members or friends or people that you know are moving back to this area, it's available to everybody. What type of retirement accounts are not included in the asset limit? I don't know if I want to turn that over to Andrew, Chance, Tina, Deborah, somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I think, generally it's sort of what they call qualified retirement accounts. So that's like an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, those types of, IRS approved retirement accounts. It's not, I have money, I've got a bank account that I'm reserving for when I turn 65 or whatever. But is that fair?
Yeah. And also education accounts. So if you have money in a 529 for your kid, that's also not considered.
Right.
The minimum down payment, again, will be a case-by-case basis based on your personal situation and on your work with Housing Action Council. I think the minimum probably 3%. There's probably some programs that are open to 3%, but again, we expect most people to be in the 5 to 10% range on down payment.
The other thing that I would add to that, Jim, if you have the ability to make a larger down payment, sometimes that's really beneficial for you when it comes to your monthly payments, because the more of a down payment that you can make, it's going to reduce the amount of money that you're borrowing through the mortgage.
Good question.
It's a great point.
The next question, if I'm applying for housing as a single person, am I allowed to apply for a 2 or 3 bedroom? No, you are limited to a studio at Cottage, a studio or 1 bedroom at Cottage, or a 1 bedroom at Church. One person cannot apply to a 2 bedroom or a larger apartment.
That's right. The one, and as far as I know, only exception to that would be if you are disabled and you have the need for a significant amount of medical equipment or a live-in aid or something like that. You should note that. I think there's a question in the application about a live-in aid, and ultimately you'll request a reasonable accommodation to have extra space, which might be approved or denied. But if that is the case, which obviously is that's a relatively rare circumstance, that's the one limit, exception I'm aware of.
Right. If my household income goes over the limit 5 years down the line, is that going to be a problem? This is something, again, I wish we made more clear during our presentation. The policy of this is we want everybody to do better. So no, you don't need to sell or move out. If you are a first-year teacher making X and you qualify, and 10 years from now you're making significantly more than the AMI, that's great. And you do not have to sell nor move out. And that's something we should have made clear during the presentation. So that's a very good question.
Yeah. So there's no, unlike other, if you've heard of affordable or subsidized housing where there's like an annual certification process or whatever, once you own this thing, it's yours. There's no annual proving anything. The only, so if your assets or income go up, good for you. We hope so.
Right.
The only thing you need to be aware of is in terms of occupancy. I mean, the building may have some occupancy limits. You can't move 10 people into a 2-bedroom apartment or whatever. So there's some limitations there, but otherwise you own the place. If you want to replace the cabinets, replace the cabinets,
Yep.
That's one of the benefits of home ownership.
Well, Andrew, we picked out very nice cabinets for these homes. So
You
hopefully
won't.
not replaced. Would a Roth IRA count as qualified or unqualified? That would not count, right? Am I saying that right?
No, that would be a qualified retirement account. That's a
Right.
type
It
of
would qualify as, yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
I have student loans that are more than 45% of my income. I've been planning to pay them off with all my savings. So I'll let Andrew take this, or I'll let Chance take this probably.
Yeah, I don't want to give you a definitive answer because I think we would want to look at your whole picture here. So why don't you reach out to us at Housing Action Council or to the folks at WRO so that we can work through that with you.
Thanks. Is there a maintenance fee? Another good question. These homes are priced based on looking at 33% of your gross income on housing and using as the factors of that make up that 33%, your mortgage, your maintenance cost, or your common charge. Those are two different terms for the same fee, and taxes and homeowners insurance. The maintenance fee is approved by a third party. It's basically taking all of your common and shared expenses and coming up with a cost to run the condominium, and then it's allocated on a square footage basis. This is all explained in the offering plan. So there is a maintenance fee, and it's used in the analysis to come up to the sale price that is available. That means your sale price set at 80% AMI. So yes.
And
Are you able to
Jim,
see the units? I'm
Jim,
sorry, go.
Just
Yeah.
wanted to interrupt for a second.
Yeah, please.
I know you've brought up the websites a few times. We have a website for 99 Church and a website for 6 Cottage, which has a lot of information on it. And it also does give estimates about costs, housing costs in general. It gives an estimate for taxes and an estimate for common charges. So that should help to give you some idea of whether it's affordable to you or
Yeah.
not.
That's a great point. And you can also see estimates of those on Home Seeker in the listing. It has like an affordability analysis, so you can look at those as well.
Are you able to see the units before you move in? That's a good question. In our experience, there have not been affordable condos built in about 10 years, but in our experience 10 years ago and before that, doing affordable condos because there were programs available, there will be such a strong demand that we expect the homes to be sold based on looking at floor plans and looking at the website and understanding the area and spending enough time in and around the area. It's entirely possible these homes are sold without doing any walkthroughs or tours because of the demand. It's possible that there will be homes available to look at for certain people, but again, it's our expectation that 68 church condominium homes and 40 cottage condominium homes will be sold and construction is completed and we will schedule move-ins. So, it might be not ideal for certain people, but that is the expectation. What is the credit score range? That would be case by case basis, but Chance, I don't know if you want to give a more nuanced answer to a credit range.
Yeah, we've seen some programs that will accept a pretty low credit score. It really depends on the program. I mean, it's ultimately a bank question. Having a higher score is always going to be better, especially if you can be, above 700, but we'll work with you on that. The main thing that I would say you really want to address, make sure that you don't have delinquent accounts. That's the thing that hurts people every single time. So even if you have some of those accounts that are out there, they're in the back of your mind, you're going to have to deal with them. Put together a payment plan and get them on a path to being paid down, and don't let them just hang out there.
Great. Does all adult occupants need to attend first-time homebuyers class? That's a very good question. I'll turn it over to Andrew for that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And my understanding would be the who the applicants, and you can have a co-applicant on, it ultimately comes down to who's going to be on the mortgage, really.
Right.
But whoever's going to be on the mortgage should take the class. And typically, so that typically if there are 2 wage earners in the household, they're probably both going to end up on the mortgage. Chance, is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
So you should expect that, anyone who's going to be, whose income is going to be part of that mortgage process is going to be relied on by the bank should be taking the class.
And just so you know, the class is not a huge lift. Typically, you're going to have a counseling session, like a group session. Then you'll take an online class that I think is roughly 8 hours of work. And then you have a one-on-one counseling session. And that's all you really need to do in terms of complying with that requirement. And then, of course, you'll want to stay engaged with your counselor to go through the process.
Great. Is there a type of HOA, long-term building maintenance plan and assessments? A good question. I partially answered that a little earlier. There is an approved budget by a third party that includes the maintenance plan, and it includes an operating reserve to make sure the condo is set up to be healthy from the outset. This building's or the condo's creation as an affordable condominium is no different than a market rate condo in terms of creating the budget for the building and the common expenses that are shared by all homeowners. So it's a very good question. There are long-term plans in place, budgets with approved backup numbers. Is there any negotiating sale price? There's not negotiating sale price. Sale prices are set based on the 33% income. So no, it's not it won't be, they won't be negotiated.
You could try, but you will be unsuccessful, I think is the answer. Yeah. Yeah.
If I have a partner paying off student loans,
But-
I will defer to Andrew or Chance on.
Yeah. So the
that.
question is, if I or my partner is paying off student loans, will that negatively affect chances after the lottery? So again, sorry, Chance, maybe I misread. That's really a question for you, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's nothing that it wouldn't negatively affect your chances with qualifying or being eligible.
It might affect affordability issues, right? If you have
Right.
student loans outstanding, it'll go to whether or not your debts fall below that 45% of your income threshold that the government is looking to.
That's right. And I suspect that some of this is coming up because I had talked about not paying off credit cards, right? Or not closing credit cards.
Oh,
So let me just clarify that. When you close a credit card on your credit report, that's actually going to show that you have less access to credit. Your overall credit will go down, and that can have a negative impact, ironically. So it's definitely good to pay off the credit cards. You just don't necessarily want to close them because sometimes it's just good for your credit to have a couple $1,000s on an open credit card that has been around for a while. So that's really the point that I was trying to make there.
Great. The housing choice voucher program in another state, Andrew?
yeah. So if the Housing Choice Voucher Program in another state does not have a home buyer program, they have FSS instead. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is, but does that also qualify for this development? So you can absolutely apply. Whether or not that voucher can be used to pay a mortgage depends entirely on your voucher administrator approving you to do that. If they don't have a home buyer program, I don't believe they'll approve you to do that. But by all means, ask. If they're willing to say yes, then we'd love to have you do that. Is there an age limit for retirees? There's no age limit on any of these units. None of them are limited to seniors, for example, or anything like that. Anyone can apply for these units. I have progressive hearing loss. Right now, I can still hear a lot, but should I apply for a place with accommodations now, considering I may not be able to in the future? Or should I apply based on my current hearing? So that's a good question. It's kind of tough for me to answer. In order to qualify for the adapted units, the units adapted for sensory impairments, you need to have a sensory disability and you need to have medical documentation to prove that. If you think that may be the case for you, go ahead and check the box and say yes. The worst thing that could happen is is by the time your number comes up and you get called up, you say, actually, I don't need it and I don't qualify. But if you think you might qualify, I would always check the box. I think that's a good rule generally.
PHI down payment?
Yeah, so that's something you'll work out with CHI and with Chance and his team. There are lots of different down payment assistance programs available through banks, through not-for-profits, etc. CHI is one of those programs, and you should be looking at all of them and try and obviously take advantage of as many of them as you can. Whether there are some cases where different down payment programs may conflict, meaning you can't have both, and I can't tell you whether or not that will be the case for your circumstance, but that's something just to be aware of and to work through with Chance and his team when you get there.
Process will vary depending on people and how organized they are with once Chance's team reaches out to you, and it will vary based on an individual basis. I could tell you that the lotteries what are the lotteries? And they're in March, and we expect
In
people
March.
to move in the summer for Cottage and in the fall for Church. That means a lot has to happen in a 90 to 120 day window for 108 home buyers. So, but it takes time. As Andrew said, it's not going to happen in a week or 2 weeks. It will take every bit of 60, 90, 120 days. But that means be ready to start. And that's one of the reasons we're doing these presentations, to make you aware of this opportunity, to also make you aware of what has to be done in terms of organizing your finances and getting ready for this opportunity. The more organized you are, the faster it'll go.
And I would just like to add to that, we mentioned this during the presentation, that signing up for an orientation and getting started with the homeownership counseling process, we should try to do that now. There's no harm in getting started right away.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The HOA maintenance fee, it covers what it would in a typical condominium. So insurance for the building, service contracts on common mechanical space, cleaning for the building, janitorial services for the building, refuse removal for the building.
Staff.
Deborah, what am I, staff, salaries, am I forgetting any major items? Landscaping, snow removal?
No.
All of the stuff that impacts everybody outside of their home. So in the hallways, in the common spaces, and in and around the building.
But it doesn't cover utilities within for your unit in particular. So maybe that's part of the point.
Correct. The question about credit cards, I'll turn over to Chance or Andrew.
Yeah, it depends on what the impact would be. If you did that 2 years ago, that was the right move. Really, the point is, as you're going through this next period of time, don't make some wild swings with your credit. But that's good that you locked those into a consolidation program.
I did see a question come up. I don't see it any longer, but there's one that I did flag about affordable condominiums in New Rochelle that our firm is working on. Essentially, everybody on this call is working on that. Chance's team is working on that, as well as Andrew and his team. That is 126 affordable condos under the same program. Will not be ready until March, April of 2027. So we have not even started marketing. We have not started establishing a lottery date. That job is, we're very excited about it, but it's down the road. So with that, we'll wait another minute or two to see if any other questions come in. These were all very good questions, and
Very good.
we remain really excited about these two condominiums and are excited to be working on them. So Andrew, let's wait another minute or two to see if anything comes in, and then we could let everybody enjoy the rest of their Friday.
Right. While we're waiting for some additional questions, I just want to make it clear that you should not send your application to the property site. This is a common mistake, and you should go electronically through the Home Seeker website or through WRO, which then gets you there, but do not send applications to the site itself. You run the risk of it not getting to the right place for the lottery.
Yep. Thank you, Deborah. I see somebody's asking about what I just said. There is another affordable condo development under construction. It's in New Rochelle. It'll be completed in March, April of 2027, so 16 months from now. So that is not the focus of this meeting, but it's a similar program, similar price. Well, the pricing will be specific to New Rochelle, but it's a similar program, and we will start talking about it probably in 4 or 5 months. Chance, you want to take that? Adult child moves out after approval or initial movement. How does that affect mortgage, etc.?
That wouldn't affect the mortgage. My assumption would be that the adult child was not on the mortgage. So whoever is the owner shouldn't impact it.
Can you pick up an application at WRO? Absolutely.
You can.
470 Mamaroneck Avenue, Suite 410 in White Plains. Is it possible to have someone who owns a property live in the condo? They would not be applying as a primary owner. I'm not sure I understand the primary owner business, but as we stated earlier, an applicant is not allowed to own other real estate. So if you want to apply, you need to, sell whatever you got. If you want to buy here, you can't own two properties at the same time. Chance, do you know the response to this, the H-1B visa?
I'm not sure. I
think this comes down to a lending issue.
Right.
So I don't know the answer. The question is really, will a bank lend to you based on your changing immigration status? And I can't answer that confidently.
There's nothing in the sort of regulatory agreements about the property itself that prohibits this, but it may be difficult to get a mortgage.
Yeah, so you should definitely apply. And from our perspective, we don't discriminate based on citizenship
That's right.
status at all. That would be illegal. But the question of whether or not you can get a loan from a bank is, I think, where the rubber's going to hit the road on that.
That's right.
And you can solve that by talking to Chance or others, getting that conversation going earlier rather than later, but go ahead and apply.
That's right.
Good questions. Love it.
How many applicants are you expecting to receive?
We have about, so we still have a ways to go on this process. Obviously, the deadlines are in the middle of February and the beginning of March. So I don't know how many we'll receive. We've probably got about 1,200 for each property now, and that number will go up. So there's a lot of interest, obviously. It'll be very competitive, but the only way to win the lottery is to be in it. So please apply.
And again, we do not verify any information prior to applying, nor is there a fee to apply. So we're hoping that we have, as Andrew said, we have a lot already, and we hope we have a lot more, because certainly everybody that has applied may not be interested. There's no downside to applying. So we're looking for real and interested people, but we've seen great interest so far, and it's really exciting. I think with that, Andrew and Chance and Tina and Deborah and everybody else and Chris and Dana and Mina, I think we've
Wow.
rapid fire answered 66 questions, which is not bad.
Not
Yep.
bad.
I'm exhausted. Yeah, that was great. Great questions. Thanks everyone for taking their
Yeah.
lunch hour with us and for staying on a little past the 1 p.m. deadline.
Just quickly, Andrew, before we leave, is there the next scheduled Zoom? Do we have one scheduled that we could just let people know that are on this call?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point. So there's another Zoom just like this sort of format on January 7th, I believe, at
January
noon.
7th, yes.
Again, 12 to 1 lunch hour. And then if you are interested in attending in person, we will be at the Yonkers Riverfront Library on January 14th at, I believe, 6 p.m. And the registration links for both of those are on WRO's website at affordablewestchester.org. So if you don't remember what I just said, you can see the details there, and you can register for either or both of those.
Great.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Have a good weekend.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.